From arrests made in the rapper's death to the only person who stepped up and helped, here are all the new details that have emerged surrounding Takeoff's death. The music industry was in a state of disbelief after Quality Control Music, Takeoff's record label, announced the rapper had tragically passed away. It was on November 1st, 2022, when Takeoff, his uncle/collaborator, Quavo, and a couple of their friends were out and about in Texas. The night was young, the group was partying and having fun, and they decided to head over to 810 Billiards and Bowling on Green Street Commercial. Houston police didn't release a whole lot of information surrounding the incident. Back in November 2022, all anyone knew was that the rapper had been shot twice in the head and torso by someone he had an altercation with at the club. A whole month later, in December 2022, Houston police revealed that a man named Patrick Xavier Clark had been arrested in connection with the murder. That was about everything anyone knew about what happened that night. It's been a while since, and fans have uncovered new information about the case. Let's start with who Patrick Xavier is and why it took the police a month to find him. Based on surveillance footage from that night, investigators determined that there were around 40 witnesses at the time of the shooting. Houston PD released a statement and asked the witnesses to come forward with evidence. Surprisingly, no one came, at least not for a while. Eventually, after a few witnesses came forward, investigators were able to work out what happened that night. Patrick and an associate, Joshua Cam, were part of a heated altercation at the club. The altercation started after a high-stakes dice game went wrong. Things were getting heated, but not between Patrick and Takeoff. Based on the witnesses' video from that night, investigators realized that Takeoff was a bystander. That's right, he had nothing to do with the high-stakes dice game. He didn't even interact with Patrick at all that night. This revelation sparked more questions. Why did he shoot Takeoff then? According to investigators, he didn't mean to. Patrick was part of a scuffle that started in the billiards room and went on to the bowling alley. Takeoff was there with Quavo and a couple of friends in the bowling alley. When things got heated, the group pulled out their weapons. Takeoff was hit several times with stray bullets. He was never the intended target. Everyone started to panic once shots were fired. Takeoff, Quavo, and their whole group were attempting to leave too. Takeoff didn't make it too far before he was hit. Two other members of their group, Migos' business associate and a 23-year-old woman, were also struck but treated for non-life-threatening injuries in the hospital later that day. Investigators were able to narrow down their search to Patrick after they reviewed the footage and based it on ballistic reenactments. They also saw him holding a champagne bottle in the footage and were able to match his fingerprints to it. Joshua Cameron didn't have anything to do with the shootout. Police had arrested him on a felony weapons charge on November 26, 2022, and through him, they were able to find Patrick. Police apprehended the shooter on December 2, 2022, and right in time, he was 2 days away from boarding a flight to Mexico. Prosecutors argued that Patrick's bail should be set at $2 million because the suspect was a flight risk. They had probable cause too. Patrick bought tickets to Mexico and even paid for an expedited passport shortly after Takeoff's death was announced. The investigators were sure he planned on fleeing the country. Still, the arresting officers claimed that Patrick didn't put up much of a fight when they surrounded him. If anything, he went away willingly without any hesitation. He knew that he was caught and would likely be charged with Takeoff's death. This leads us to Patrick being released on bail and placed under house arrest. The case is set to begin sometime in 2024. In 2023, a grand jury indicted Patrick in Takeoff's murder case, but according to his defense attorney, Letitia Quinones Hollins, the case is baseless. She told Rolling Stone that her client was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. She claimed that Patrick wasn't part of the high-stakes dice argument either, and that the cameras only showed him outside of the bowling alley and nothing else. She also claimed that there wasn't any footage that showed Patrick firing a gun. That's because he wasn't armed, according to Letitia. If convicted, Patrick could face between 5 years and a lifetime behind bars. But his attorney's sure she can get him off the hook. Meanwhile, Takeoff's mother, Tatiana Davenport, believes that someone else is to blame for her son's death too, 810 Billiards and Bowling. Davenport filed a lawsuit against the venue owner in June of 2023, claiming that they were negligent. She believes that the venue was responsible for impeding security when they knew that Takeoff and Quavo were going to be there that night. Davenport also claimed that the high-stakes dice game was part of a mega event at the club, and that the venue should have added more security measures. Besides the fact that patrons were not properly screened for dangerous weapons at the door, Takeoff's mother also claimed that the venue owner didn't step in when things got heated. She said that everyone from 810 Billiards and Bowling stepped away when they saw Patrick getting more and more aggressive. She's suing the venue for $1 million because she believes that Takeoff's death was entirely avoidable. All the venue had to do was protect its patrons, and none of it would have happened. The case is still ongoing, and the venue owner believes that there's only one person responsible. That's Patrick Clark. Davenport is suing the club for negligence, emotional stress, her son's personal injuries, and his funeral expenses. The venue owners claim that the only person who should pay up is Clark. In not so many words, they've accused Takeoff's mother of using her son's death as a payday. Fans have been highly critical of Takeoff's family after his death and how they've reacted to it. Besides Davenport's multi-million-dollar lawsuit, fans believe that Quavo hasn't been doing his part either. So, shortly before Takeoff's death, Quavo released a video on his social media with his nephew and Jay Prince. They were seen riding together to the venue and overall, just having a great time. It's also been reported that it was during Quavo's high-stake dice turn that Takeoff was shot. So, if Takeoff was at the wrong place and at the wrong time, it was because he was standing close to Quavo. Neither rapper was the intended target, according to the police. However, they believe that Quavo was a key witness. We've already talked about how witnesses weren't willing to step forward and testify, but everyone believed that Quavo had been more than cooperative. Apparently not. Redditors uncovered police interviews where it was hinted that no one, not even Quavo, had stepped up in the aftermath. Fans were also critical of the fact that Quavo has been spotted with Jay Prince in the months since Takeoff's death, yet neither of them has reportedly cooperated with the police. The real hero in all of this was the nurse who rushed to the scene and tried to save Takeoff's life. The nurse, who wished to stay anonymous, claimed that she heard a commotion followed by gunshots from her balcony. She could tell from the swarm of people running out of the club that something devastating had happened. The nurse then rushed to her car, grabbed several pieces of medical equipment from her trunk, and rushed to the club. You can hear her voice in a few of the videos yelling, "I'm a nurse! Let me through!" She tried to record Takeoff's pulse as he lay there on the ground. However, she claimed that once she saw his eyes roll back and the pool of blood around his head, she realized she was too late. Still, she stayed with the young rapper's body until the first responders made their way to the scene. She later claimed that she didn't know who Takeoff was, but the image of someone's son lying there was haunting. From the only person who stepped up and helped, to the arrests made in the rapper's death, these were all the new details that have emerged surrounding Takeoff's death.